You are live
And late.
Well, are we late?
Well, I guess it depends on what time zone you're in.
All right, I'm getting notifications over there. Good morning. Good morning. Waiting for some folks to jump on. Let's refresh.
I feel like I'm in a taller chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I give you the wiggly chair?
No, they're both the same. It's just I'm used to sitting in those, and my knees don't hit this.
All right.
So it's kind of time to adjust.
All right, we're getting some folks on here. Oh, now I can hear myself. That's because I'm on YouTube. I'm sorry. Let me mute that. Man, what an amateur.
Sweet. That was weird.
Good morning, Lance. Hopefully you guys can hear us. If somebody would drop us a comment, we'll make sure that everything's working audio-wise, technology-wise. Good morning, Timmy.
Good morning, Mr. Taylor.
We got quite a few questions. I don't know why the Facebook question's not popping in. But I'm going to go copy that. Oh, it's from a different post. See, we're having some technical difficulties. The software integration is they're having some issues I've been seeing with Facebook. So I imagine with Facebook's new refresh, you probably haven't looked at Facebook on a desktop, but they completely redid the layout and everything.
I haven't looked at it in almost a year. I'm off the Facebook grid.
Gotcha. Ooh. Razorback red shirt.
Woo Pig Sueys. That's what there's. With a hat. That's not quite. I guess it's not quite. I had to do an emergency shirt change because I got wet in the rain unloading boats earlier.
Well,
so I have proof.
Yeah, isn't it?
Do what you got to do.
We get beautiful weather and
got some pontoons in, so if you need one, we got some now.
Yeah, we got some Crests and Bentley. But isn't the way it is, the beautiful weather or no boats, and when it starts raining.
There it goes.
All right. Well, good morning, guys. Michael and Israel here once again on a Tuesday morning here at Bucks Island. And doing a little Tech Tuesday. I see we've got some questions already in there, so we'll jump into those. Are having a few technical issues with getting all the questions in. So if you already commented a question, drop it in there again, and let's see if we'll push it through. Otherwise, I'll go hunt down. But we'll start with what we've got. And I'm going to jump in here. With David said, I'm about to purchase a ZXR 20 with the 250 show, and I heard y'all discussing the prop washer issue last week. Should I be concerned about it?
Honestly, I hadn't seen. I mean, it was like there's like a small spurt of them this summer in a row. There's like maybe 10 people, and then it's been I probably haven't had a SHO one in almost 2 months. So I don't know if they just had a little bit of a washer wash, but here lately hadn't seen a lot of issues. But there's some if you end up having that issue, there's some fixes now. So I think you should be very or a lot less concerned than maybe a couple months ago. They seem to be working themselves out now.
So, and for some context, I mean, it's not like we're a small shop and only have a few shows.
Yeah, we see a lot high volume. So most of our stuff is going to be, we're going to see some of the little issues, and you usually see about 10% anyway. So we're going to definitely see that 10% here.
All right.
So, but the last 2 months hadn't seemed to be an issue.
I mean, what in new shows this year, we've probably sold at least 75 to 100 between all the Skeeters. We've done a lot of repowers this year, so just want to give you some context in terms of the numbers. So it's not like every motor's coming in with the issues, or we're only seeing 5 motors and 3 of them have problems or something like that. So 10% sounds like a good number.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these days we actually sit down and do some math on the volume. All right. Let me look and see. This was a comment that I just copied and pasted from the original post. I have a Skeeter ZX 180 with a 175 Pro XS you installed 2 years ago. When I'm on plane, if I adjust the trim, the RPMs decrease while the trim is operating. Is this low voltage or what?
It could be, yeah. You might have a loose ground, or I've seen this happen before. I've seen bad key switches cause that. Strangely enough, but what's happening typically is it's robbing what I call the global power. It's the power that feeds the ECU. If you pull enough amps, and the trim motor pulls like probably 30-40 amps when you're using it, especially going down the river.
Gotcha.
And all your injectors and your coils are having to feed off of that power, and if it drops the amperes down enough, it'll affect the actual spark advance. It'll affect the amount of fuel that goes into the cylinder. So it's leaching it in some way or another. It could be a battery. Sometimes a battery can be bad and cause that issue too. But I typically see a loose battery connection for the most part.
All right. Hope that helps you. Can't remember who. All right. This one's from YouTube. What's the process for winterizing a Mercury 4-stroke? I know change the oil and gear case oil and put in fuel stabilizer. Used to use fogging oil in my 2-stroke. And then same follow-up there is any differences between winterizing a Mercury and a Yamaha?
That's about the same. The biggest thing is making sure there's not any water in the foot, in the oil side. Sometimes you get fishing line in there. If you get water in there in the wintertime and it freezes, it'll actually either push the bearing carrier out the back, or it'll pop the sides out. Other than that, it's good, if it's going to sit for a little while, to get some kind of extra lubricant into the cylinder so that they don't potentially rust. And there's a few ways to do it. You can fog it through the intake. It doesn't seem to get as well covered that way anymore. The best thing to do is pull the spark plugs out, and I usually put about a squirt or two. It's not even quite an ounce of 2-stroke oil in all the cylinders, and then you spin it over.
Okay.
With a kill switch off, and it just kind of splatters the cylinder with oil.
Okay.
And it'll smoke like crazy whenever you run it the first time. And it might foul a plug, but that's just that's the risk you take on that stuff. And then I would put stabilizer in the fuel if it's going to sit for a while, but I would do my best the next time you go out, before you've decided to be done with it, is to burn out as much fuel out of that tank as you can.
You recommend topping off the tank for winter? Or?
No, they used to, but it seems that the fuel quality is so bad these days, or low.
Right.
It seems to degrade a lot faster.
Okay.
And these 4-strokes, they don't like bad fuel at all. They seem to blow up when you run them.
So
the risk is, if you let that fuel sit in there for 3 months and it's been in there months, because maybe you don't use a lot of fuel, you just cruise. And then you got 4-month-old gas, and it can definitely cause some damage.
So you recommend go out, before you put it away, run it down till there's only a little bit of fuel
Yeah,
left.
maybe eighth of a tank.
Put the stabilizer in,
And
and okay,
yeah,
and then
fill up. You know,
before you run it the first time.
Ideally, get it all out of the tank, but you know that's not always
Right.
an option when you want to get back to the ramp.
Yep.
You know, it can be pumped out too, but if you get most of a good bit, maybe only have an eighth of a tank left. That's probably good enough. And then when you go to take it out the next year, just fill it all the way up.
Well, I'm sure somebody's going to ask the follow up. So we've talked about ethanol fuel. Don't worry about it during the summer when you're running it on a regular basis. Would you say maybe now would be the time? Go find some place that has non-ethanol for that last run on the.
Yeah, that'd be the ideal situation.
Put a little stabilizer in. And
ethanol, it likes to, pull moisture out of the air, and there's a lot of moisture in there in the wintertime, so it's got a lot of opportunity.
Okay. Well,
and if you put a isopropyl alcohol-based, stabilizer in there with some of the oil-based ones too, they're both good. But if you can find the isopropyl kind, it's what that'll do is keep if there is a moisture in the gas, it keeps it from separating, so you can burn it out.
Okay.
There's a stuff called heat. I think it's mostly isopropyl alcohol with a little bit of injector cleaner in it.
Okay. Well, and I guess something that I've learned from listening to you that I haven't thought a lot about is if you're filling up on the water, some of your local marinas right now, undoubtedly that fuel consumption, they're not running through nearly as much gas as they were a month ago. So particularly for you fishermen, just keep that in mind with where you're filling up. The pontooners are putting the boats up. So you're going to start running less fuel through it, and that means their fuel is sitting in their tanks and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to start off with a month or 2 month old gas.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
So, all right. Hopefully that helps your question. Any other differences between the Merc or the Yamaha and
Winterization? It's pretty much the same thing.
All right. Let's see, Scott. We got a question on 2006 Yamaha HPDI 250. Hit a cross tie floating. Sorry,
you're close.
Floating into water while running 40 miles an hour. Kicked the motor up out of the water. Motor started running rough, and I found number 4 cylinder has no compression. Can the two issues be related?
I definitely, I would say so, because when you hit something, especially if it stopped the motor dead in its tracks, it could cause some of the internal parts that were moving when they stop suddenly to make contact with the cylinder. So if it was exactly the same time, I would definitely consider that as a related failure.
Gotcha. All right. Jason with a follow-up. Can you use fogging oil in spark plug holes in lieu of the 2-stroke oil?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be fine. Just don't get too much in there because 4 strokes, you don't have any, like the 2 strokes will let a lot of that stuff because there's so many ports and stuff in there. They'll let some of that oil out. If you put too much in a 4-stroke, it'll hydrolock. So you have to just be, just get a little bit in there, whirl it around with your little tube, and then, then you put your spark plugs back in there and turn it over.
Okay.
Just don't crank it, because it'll just burn it right back off.
Okay.
You just want to turn it over, pull the kill switch, turn it over.
All right. Let me see if I got any other questions that I'm missing. Looks like everything's showing up. All right. Well, while you guys are coming up with some more questions for us, I found a few on some groups. Here's we're talking about fluids and all that kind of stuff. I found somebody asked a question about can you use hydraulic fluid for trim and tilt fluid?
I'd say just any. No, probably not, because there's different viscosities of hydraulic fluid. There's different, different chemicals that are put in some of them to keep them from turning into foam, and some of that stuff might not be needed. But I can tell you this: that if you don't have regular like Mercury or Yamaha trim and tilt fluid or power steering fluid, you can use Mercon Dextron 3
Okay.
transmission fluid.
Okay.
It seems to work really well. Matter of fact, most of the Mercury trims come with that from wherever they're manufactured, and then they sell us the nicer stuff to put in there whenever we work on them.
Okay.
I think it's just because it's a little bit more readily available, but it seems to not. It may be a little louder as far as like if you get air bubbles in it,
Okay.
you can hear the trim, pump a little more with that red fluid in it versus the manufactured recommended stuff, but it works fine.
All right. Scott said, thanks. I'll have my boat up to you in a couple days. Awesome. Let's go. This was a question, I think, from last week. I have a 2000 Mercury 225 EFI. Having issues coming out of the water. And I think that means out of the hole. Once it does, it runs great, but it takes a while to plane out. I followed up with the question of what boats he got it on, and didn't get an answer.
And the other question is it done this for a while? Did you just buy it, kind of thing? So there's a lot of unknowns here, but if it's something that just started happening, then I've seen reed valves have issues where it seems to run better on top end because you get a little bit more air moving through it, but on bottom end it doesn't breathe as well if you have a reed valve broken. So that'd be the first thing I would look at. Propellers. You may have the wrong propeller for the type of year. If it's overpropped, it's going to definitely be hard to get out of the hole. Did we put more weight in the boat? So there's a lot of unknowns there.
I mean,
and I have seen if it's the EFI, I've seen the fuel pressure regulators get stopped up, and so what will happen in that instance is it'll run really rich at idle and it'll even run kind of poor. Be hard to get out of the hole, but once you get up on plane, it likes more fuel up there anyway, so it may not affect it on top end. So, and that may not be something that particular person can deal with himself, but you'd have to take the regulator off and either replace it if you can find the screen, or just clean the screen on the regulator, and that usually fixes that issue. But that could very well be the problem with that one.
All right. All right. I am not seeing any other questions. And we've been going about 18 minutes, 19 minutes. I will make a shameless plug. I was asked, as we sit here with all the tackle in the background, we just got a fresh shipment of a lot of the Reaction Innovation stuff in. I know that's been real popular around here, so we got a bunch more stuff in, and I've been seeing boxes and boxes of stuff coming in. I think got the Spro Frogs, the Spro tournament on Gunnersville this weekend. Hobie tournament. Hobie's doing a tournament here on Neely Henry.
Oh.
So we had a bunch of kayakers in last week for a state championship, and now Hobie.
I saw a bunch of them at the Little Bridge when I was getting lunch.
So yeah, so that's my shameless plug for some of the stuff going on in the shop. You got anything else?
Mm-mm.
I think
I'm gonna go eat and take a nap.
That sounds like an awesome plan. Who's down with that? Yeah. All right, guys. Well, for those of you still hanging out with us, thanks so much. Thanks for the great questions. Hope you got something out of it. Let's see here. Oh, Israel is the man. All right.
Thanks, buddy. I don't know him either, so I don't guess. Probably see. I know faces in boats. What boat
you paid him. You paid him
Maybe
to say that, I'm sure. But guys, I hope you guys have a great week. If you're an angler, as I'm imagining many of you are watching this, weather's changing. Sounds like the bite's picking up. So hope you're having fun. If you are a recreational boater and somehow are watching this at the end of this video and have been hanging out with us, then definitely get scheduled for winterization. Be thinking about what you're doing before the actual first freeze comes.
typically it's right around Halloween time. So think about that.
Can't believe we're this far along in 2020. So, but guys, hope you're having a good week. And we will talk to you again next week. We got some big stuff coming up here soon. So keep an eye out. All right. We'll talk.